Ooh, welcome to Single Leg Parlay. This is the college football, I don't know, recap preview, almost college
Yeah.
playoff episode.
Championship week.
Championship week.
Championship week.
Hell yeah. I'm Al. That's Matt. We're going to talk some bullshit and have a good time doing it. Cheers.
Cheers. Al, before you get started, I just want to say one thing. We always kind of tease bets and don't get it. Clemson, SMU over 56.5. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh,
I'm going to leave that out there for the world. If you listened early, you can fade me. And you probably win. But come on now. That game's not
that,
saying
so does that mean you think SMU is going to win and or cover?
I don't know who's going to win, but I know SMU has scored 35 points in the last 14 weeks, and they give up a ton of points.
Okay.
So it
Because
looks
to
like
me, I'm thinking Clemson, it's hard for Clemson to score more than 20-something points. So it feels like SMU is going to have to do the heavy lifting there, but
yeah,
maybe, I don't know.
I
I
like
guess I
it.
don't realize how bad SMU's defense is.
I like it in any number under 58. That's all.
Okay.
56.5 is perfectly reasonable.
There's
So that's all.
Yeah, there's a lot of good matchups this weekend. Obviously, everyone's playing for their conference championship, but oftentimes, and especially when there aren't, maybe it's because there aren't two divisions in a lot of these leagues or conferences anymore, that we're seeing high quality matchups. Like we've got even the bad ones. You've got Boise State, UNLV. That could be a good one. You've got
Great one.
Arizona State, Iowa State could be a good one.
I could count 30 different outcomes, I believe, in Arizona State, Iowa State. Iowa State wins by 10. Sure. Arizona State wins by 40. Okay. Yeah, that could also happen. I have no idea what happens in that game.
We go to 8 overtimes,
Sure.
Even like Oregon, is it Penn State?
Yeah.
Oregon, Penn State, yeah. I'm not certain that any top-ranked team is going to win. They all feel like maybe not coin flips, but the dogs have a real shot at winning outright.
To prove your point, on Hard Rock right now, the closest spread for any championship game, so there are 9 of them, is Tulane is a 5.5-point favorite over Army.
That's the biggest.
That's the biggest spread. That is the largest variation. Everything else is 5 and under.
Yeah, I was gonna say they all have to be within a score. So yeah, okay.
I fucked
then
up.
what else do you have? You also have
Oh,
you're good. You're good. You also have SMU, Clemson, and then Texas, Georgia.
Georgia.
When are these games? How are they spread out? Are we gonna have 3 of these games going on at once? It's gonna be chaos.
So good to know. On Friday there are 3 of them. You got CUSA, Western Kentucky, going against Jacksonville State. That actually is going to be a friggin' blast. Tulane plays Army at 8 o'clock on Friday. And then for the night, I guess 8 o'clock also, UNLV, Boise State.
Okay.
That's going to be a great game. I know Boise State is
3 games at once Friday night, but really one major one that's playoff impacted.
Correct, right? And then the winner of the the winner of the Boise State UNLV game is likely in to the playoff.
I mean, I guess the idea is if UNLV wins and Tulane beats Army, or Army, then maybe that team gets in over UNLV.
Tulane would be really interesting. I think UNLV would probably get the bump because of defeating Boise, and the Ashton Genty story is popular enough where there will be some positivity. I know.
I don't know what conference gets in over UNLV Boise, the Mountain West winner.
Yeah. These two teams have already played each other this year. And it was a great game. Let me get the final score. It was 29-24, Boise State in Las Vegas. I think the Mountain West game is again in Las Vegas, so it may be a home game for UNLV.
No, it's in Boise, according to Action.
Oh, that's awesome.
Stadium, Boise, Idaho.
They play at the best ranked. Let me verify that. Where the hell is it?
Yeah, I
It
think
is
all of these are like home games.
hosted by the top regular season team. That's great. So the game will be in Boise instead of in Las
And
Vegas.
then I think all the Power Four conferences are neutral sites, quote unquote. You know, you have Georgia playing in Atlanta, not exactly neutral, but um, okay.
That's interesting.
So that's Friday night, and then Saturday looks like the noon slate. You've got the MAC championship, and
Not,
then
Nothing quite like Arizona State playing a 9 a.m. kick for where they're accustomed to kicking.
yeah,
I
that's
don't
kick
know
ass.
where the Big 12 championship game is. I'm gonna guess Dallas though.
It's Arlington.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's an 11 o'clock kick, but yeah, the 9 a.m. their time
Hmm.
body clock. Um, all right, so that's a noon kick. You got a 4 p.m. kick for Georgia, Texas. And
Hmm.
then nighttime, we've got both Clemson, SMU, ACC championship, and Penn State, Oregon, Big Ten championship. Those are both on at 8. Okay.
And those both have a spread of 2.5 and 3.5. So they're
Yeah.
expecting some really fun games in this one. That's the cool thing. You're right about that, Al. When they got rid of divisions, it did tighten up these spreads a lot more. I would like to make an argument that I think the divisions are better for a playoff series, right? So that everybody on one side
Definitely
has
makes
to
it
play each
clearer
other.
to know like what's at stake in the last couple weeks leading up to this, because
Exactly. And
I think
everyone
even the conferences themselves didn't know the tiebreaker scenarios and who was going to get in.
Well, then and it's easier to compare teams like Alabama and Ole Miss, right? Because they all played like the same
Yeah,
schedule for the most part. The SEC is such a mess with the 20 teams or whatever's in there, 18 teams. They haven't faced off to that many common opponents where you can compare them.
yeah.
I do think it would be better, but for a playoff. But we remember those Big Ten West days where this championship game, the Big Ten West team would lose by 45 every year to Ohio State or Michigan.
So I did want to go over the college football playoffs and who has a shot to get in and what happens if certain teams win or lose this weekend. But before we get to that, um, what is your opinion on Kirby Smart calling timeout every single overtime?
Okay. As a fan of college football, I hated it. There's a couple things I hate about it because it was a great game. Georgia Tech showed their guts. They were largely the better team on the night.
Yeah,
But I hate that they changed sides of the field in 2 point conversion. It's an arbitrary waste of time, and it annoyed them. And
I mean,
everyone walked.
I think it's a service to the fans that are in the stadium because it sucks if you're on the side
Okay.
that they don't play at. But and also, you know, there's typically student body sections on one side of the end zone, and so maybe there's a bit of a noise factor there more
You're
so
right.
elsewhere. So I understand it like logistically, but like TV wise, it's awful. There's commercial breaks after every OT, which is 2 plays. You have Kirby calling timeout every OT. So you've got um, they line up for a play, he calls a timeout, they line up for the play, they run the play, they go to commercial, and you
Mm-hmm.
just do that indefinitely, and it's terrible quality TV. Even especially when the game is like so exciting, I don't know even if I like this 2 point conversion
It's
nonsense.
awful.
I'd rather like they just say third OT, both teams go for two, and if it's a tie after that, then the game ends in a tie.
It's a
Like,
draw.
yeah, like I. It also my biggest pet peeve when games go to overtime is when the underdog gets the ball second in overtime after giving up a touchdown.
The second
They
worst.
score the touchdown and then they kick the extra point to go to second overtime. Dude, you've got one play at the 2 yard, 3 yard line, whatever it is, to win the game. Like, not even going for it. Like, no one ever is expecting a fake extra point. Like, run that shit. That thing will be wide open. I'm literally begging someone to run that. Every single time that scenario crops up, I scream in my head.
Yeah, so I saw you text that. I've never even thought about anyone running a fake extra point. You see fake field goals all the time. I don't know if it's because everything's so compact it would be hard to score, but I feel like the element of surprise there would be incredible.
Yeah, I mean, everyone on the defense is just standing around. They're just like, okay, let's like chalk this one up. And we're going out to play defense on the next series. Like no one's paying attention. I mean,
That was
maybe
the
someone
only
runs it and it totally flops and I look like an idiot, but I think there's genuinely a really good chance to win the game doing
that
that.
was my only criticism of Georgia Tech on the night. It's like you have a chance for one play to win it against a far superior team. The attrition rule will wear you out faster than it will wear them out because they have
Yeah.
higher quality
Also,
threat.
also, so there was they had 6 tries going through 8 overtimes and starting in the third going for 2, or starting in the second going for 2, and I think they only converted once. And it's like the whole game they got there on the legs of Haynes King, and they're sitting there having him drop back at the 3-yard line, throwing into a condensed space full of the best athletes in the country. Like, why are you passing every single time?
Oh, I think it must be hard to run the ball in from the 2.5 yard line. It must be the thought process there because
Yeah,
everyone does it.
yeah,
But no, back to your original point. I hate that the fact that you get a timeout per overtime, but I think Kirby doing that is so smart. I'd see
yeah.
their
I
play.
mean, I totally get it. Yeah.
I get it and I hate it, but
Can you imagine if
that's
both
more of like
coaches are doing that? Like if you had Kirby versus Kirby, and you got two, like just
it's a
it's
time
miserable.
off. It's a
Yeah,
timeout off.
yeah. Once you get to third OT, there should be no timeouts.
Agreed. So I think that rule should change. I don't
Yeah.
think if they give you the option, I would take it, but I think that the rule is stupid.
Or they should do they could do like 2 overtimes in a row at one end and then switch. You know,
Well,
I don't know.
that's fine. Yeah, you gotta
They don't
speed
need
it
to
up.
switch every single OT, but
To be fair, they did sell 5 hours of commercials, so
yeah, I
I
guess
don't think ABC
everyone
is
wins, right?
upset. Yeah, I don't think ABC gives a shit.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So if Georgia Tech had beaten Georgia, do you think they'd have planted their flag in the middle of right between the hedges?
I do not think they would have. By the way, sneaky good rivalry game name, the Clean Old Fashioned Hate. It's a great rivalry name. I didn't realize that was the name for a long time, and then it's just
Okay.
fun. It's
I
a
thought
good
that was
name.
just someone saying it. That's what they call Georgia Tech, Georgia.
Clean Old Fashioned Hate. And
Okay.
it's a good name.
Yeah.
120 years of it or whatever. Yeah, that was a weird story that really spiraled out of control. And Al,
It's
I'm going
like
to ask you
all
your
of a sudden
opinion on it.
everyone's trying to plant their flag. It's not, it's like I don't know. I don't remember this ever being a thing until
My
this year.
least favorite take that I've heard today is this take on it. Well, you should have protected your home field then. It's like, all right, that's the fucking lamest. Like, well, you had 4 quarters to defend your home turf. They won it. I'm like, no. You know who pays taxes on that shit? The school does. Or you know who pays to upkeep it? The school. Not like, this isn't actual war, you dum-dums. Like, this is a game. And look, you want to brag and be excited about it, but that take is fucking stupid. I'm like, you're an idiot.
I think
You're a kid.
yeah, the thing that sort of gets me riled up is it's always like Michigan fans, dude. The Michigan fans always think they're like the smartest and they're like the best and they're like the uh morally superior sports fan. And you got these dudes being like, "Oh, we don't have room in the game for this kind of for people starting shit like this." And it's like, dude, you guys are the ones in their stadium trying to rub it in their face. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I see both ways. Like I see being like, they're kids, let them go out there and have the fun and like who cares? Do it for the gram. And if I also am like, if I were out there, I would for sure be throwing blows, being like, you're not
Fuck
making
that.
me look like a little bitch in front of an audience of millions, you know?
I know I wouldn't stand for it, and that it's more of a shame on me because I'm an adult. But I would be very embarrassed.
Yeah.
I have a pivot for that. My opinion changed on this, and I want to know if I'm ridiculous. When these players stopped pretending like they weren't getting paid and started just operating as paid employees and mercenaries,
I guess
I
that
feel like
changes the lens through which you view things, right?
right. I like if they were not getting paid or getting paid a free education, and I'd be like, all right, they're kids. Now they're employees. I'm like, I don't fucking. You have to have decorum. I can't go into other people's companies. If I say
Yeah,
I,
I don't go like do an upper decker in my office bathroom.
yeah, I don't go say I have a competing pitch. I have a marketing pitch. Someone else has a marketing pitch. And we're doing it at the other place's office, but I win the pitch. I don't go in there and just like steal the coffee machine because I'm the victor. Because
Yeah,
I'm getting paid, and I would get fired. I would get
decorum.
fired. It would be decorum. It's kind of the rule is if you're at home, you can put your feet up, but when you're at someone else's house, don't act like an asshole. But that
Yeah,
is literally the most boomer take on
yeah,
that. Like I
yeah.
couldn't be older,
You're
but
right, but you're wrong just in the way you're saying it.
I believe in myself and I hate myself for my take. So
Yeah,
that's all I got for you. Um, but yeah, it got out
oh,
of control. That it's crazy that this is like an egregious injustice of power that Ohio State decided to use pepper spray and like random people were getting pepper sprayed on the field. Did you see this after the flag?
no,
Michigan put their flag in, and then the Columbus Police Department started pepper spraying people near there. I'm like,
that's kind of fantastic. If they were
that's
pepper spraying players, like Michigan players, that would be fantastic.
Lucy Rodine from the Dan Levitard show. Her associate who goes to all these college football games got pepper sprayed in the face. She's there as a journalist. That
Yeah,
is hilarious and ridiculously bad.
yeah, that's absurd. I think because again, it's like I don't remember this being a thing, at least not like at every school on every rivalry game. It's like I don't know if there's some like underground thing where everyone got put up to do this, or if this is some like Jackson Mahomes type shit where everyone's just trying to do it for like the social
For the
media
clout,
follows and yeah, for the clout. That's really what it feels like to me. So like don't be clout chasing, just like you won the game, that's good enough.
yeah, I agree. I agree, but I also don't care that much. Like
Yeah.
it's one of those takes where I'm like, all right, you want to be dumb kids. The only side that I do care about is if you try to do this in some other sports. Say you were an English soccer fan, and it was Liverpool Everton, and Everton won a game at Anfield, and they put a flag in the middle of the Liverpool stadium. Those players would die, like legit die. Like it would be a very unfortunate situation.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. College football is the only place where that would be like a reasonable thing to do. Like,
Police violence, I
you
think.
did that in the NHL, get the fuck out of here. There would be so much violence that, like, I mean, and granted, a flag wouldn't stick in the ice, right? You would have to
Yeah.
have
They're starting a bonfire at center ice.
like, we melted. This is a lake now. This is where we.
They start dropping like ice fishing lures. Yeah. Oh, that's
That
actually
would be
really
a great
good.
use of power.
Um, Also, how do we feel about the way coaches responded? Like I saw something about Napier and Norvell kind of. I don't know. It's like that's a tough spot because you got to like defend your players and stuff. But it's like, dude, you're like 50. Like you don't need to be like out there stomping, grabbing, and tugging them flags and yelling. Like I don't know.
So this is where I'm going to be unbalanced on this. I thought what Norvell did was awesome. He took it and he fucking Olympic javelin tossed that bitch out of the way. I love my favorite moment of that video is there's like a staffer like, hey, that's our flag. Mike Norvell's this looks at him like, fuck you, and then chucks it. Like there's a Gator staffer. I don't think I mean, yeah, I'm appreciate Billy Napier being polite. I don't think he needs to be polite. He could be like, yeah, that wasn't probably the coolest thing we could have done, but they're kids. We had some fun.
Yeah.
We won the game. That I'd be like, that's a fair reason. He was much more effusive in his apology. I don't think you needed to do that, but I appreciate it because boy, I hate the Gators. It made me hate them less.
Yeah. The one,
But it happened a
one
lot this weekend. All that,
yeah.
it was a weird moment. You're right. I don't remember that being such a big deal. I don't know if that's like it must be a new age clout thing.
Yeah, last thing, I just want to give a shout out to the Arizona State Sun Devils using the trident and sticking that in center. That's a solid. That's solid.
If we
Much
say we
cooler than
won
a
a game
flag.
at Florida and we took Osceola Spear and threw it in the grass, would that be as cool? The
That
Trident
is,
is super
I think
cool.
that's a lot less cool because that's like you're like bringing shame on a real people, whereas there are no real Sun Devils. You
That's
know,
true.
like a
That's true.
trident is perfect. Like the mermen aren't going to be, on the TV.
Poseidon is big mad about this
He's
one.
super pissed. Yeah, a single tear from Poseidon's cheek.
No,
Yeah,
that's fair. I didn't think about like the representation of human beings.
yeah. All right. I know we're gonna talk about who's in, who's out here. But I want to specifically focus on Miami, both because I am a Miami fan, right? And then also I think they're in a unique spot where a lot depends on how these games shake out this weekend, right? Like I think if all of the expected like favorites win, I think Miami still makes the playoffs. And I think it's close, but I think tomorrow's rankings are going to dictate the like reality of the situation. Um, I guess Georgia ended up winning, so they're not going to drop necessarily. But it's is Miami going to fall below Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina, or are they going to sit above them with the other two lost teams? That's sort of the question.
So, in my opinion, I don't think Miami deserves. I think it's more of a timing thing that would be a bad reflection, right? If these two losses had happened in September and November, I don't think it would be that bad of a visual. I do think two losses in 3 weeks does show a problematic trend, even though Miami's shown this trend since the beginning of October. They've
Yeah,
showed like they will fuck around. That Cal game, they fucked around. Virginia Tech, they fucked around, and they needed miracles to win. So I do think that stays in like the committee's mind. But my point is, Miami's got a unit that is better than most in college football in any capacity, and their offense is electric. And
yeah,
Cam Ward, we got to remember this is largely a television product. Cam Ward is good at the television product.
yeah. He's a good.
So if
Yeah,
you
it's a
thought
good
about it from
TV.
a marketing perspective, say you give Miami 11 seed and Notre Dame's in the 6 seed, that's appealing. That's a classic. You'll get the old folks who remember Catholics versus convicts. You'll get the young folks because Notre Dame has a big one, a big community following. And Cam Ward, he's worth the price of admission, you know?
Yeah,
But I do not think everything I feel, it reminds me a lot of last year when Florida State got hosed. It feels like the media is setting you up to expect 4 SEC, 4 Big Ten. And if that's the case, there's no way Miami can get in.
I just think it's so tough to get four SEC teams in.
Agreed. I agree 1,000%. I think
So
there are 2 SEC teams that deserve it. Tennessee is fringe, and Alabama's not good. That's not a good football team. They
yeah,
beat Georgia earlier in the year, but they have done nothing from that victory for me to be like, this is a good football team. They did beat Auburn this week convincingly. I don't care. I don't give a shit. Their road record against bowl teams is like 1-3. Not a good team when they have to travel outside of Tuscaloosa.
is
That
this
is a bad football.
so? Is this strictly like a Miami versus Bama thing for you, or do you think Ole Miss has a shot, or South Carolina,
I think South
or
Carolina has a shot. I think they are a team. So if we say Miami is trending bad, South Carolina is trending good. Right?
yeah,
They lost a game against LSU where Sellers got hurt. Their 2 big games they lost, Sellers was not in it. But they have a lot of signature wins. They've beaten good teams. And then they fought hard against Alabama. They were never really out of a game, and they kind of like punched above their weight class, which reflects well, but it also means they're probably going to get blown the fuck out in the playoffs.
yeah?
Is kind of my thought there. I don't think Ole Miss has a shot.
Okay. So really, yeah. So essentially, it sounds like we're talking Miami versus Bama for the last spot.
That's what it feels like largely.
Okay.
It feels like it to me. And look, I'm not a Miami fan, but I do think Miami is far more, their body of work is far more deserving for that last spot than Alabama. Everyone's like, well, Vanderbilt's not a bad loss. It's like Syracuse isn't a bad loss. It's a 9-3 team. Georgia Tech's not a bad
Right.
loss.
Right.
Both of those. And if
I mean,
anything,
they are, but like if you don't think Vandy's a bad loss, then yeah, those aren't bad losses either. But
Syracuse and Georgia Tech would beat Vanderbilt, like hands down. Put them neutral, and I bet the power rankings are better. They didn't lose to Georgia State. You know, those teams didn't.
Yeah.
We're doing resume comparison, but that's my opinion. I think Miami deserves to be in it, and I would give them an 11 spot. I put them above Arizona State or whoever wins the Big 12. But outside of that, I can see the narrative building already, and they're going to put an SEC team in.
So I think I'll put it this way. I think 2 ACC teams are making the playoffs, and I don't know if one of them is Miami yet.
I think if SMU loses, they're out. And I think Clemson is the only ACC representative. I do not think that would be a very good day for the ACC. And that probably pushes – no, that'll keep Alabama in. I think that would be an atrocity. SMU has had a better season than practically anyone not named Texas, Oregon, or Penn State. Right?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think SMU's in.
I hope so. If you haven't watched,
do you think Boise State is in if they lose to UNLV?
That's a good question. Would Boise State be in if they lost to UNLV? They have a marketable asset, right? I have to think of it as like a television product.
Like that's why I think tomorrow is like so like where these rankings are is gonna like really inform, what the stakes are. Because Boise is only like ranked 11th or something, right? But they're the 3 or 4 seed because they're the fourth highest rated conference champ, whatever it is.
Yeah, and they're good. And they have Ashton Genty, right? They have a product.
Yeah.
They have something on their team everybody knows, right? They don't know. I don't even know the chubby quarterback's name, Madsen or whatever.
Yeah.
But everyone knows Ashton Genty because he'll be there in New York next week.
Yeah.
I don't know, buddy. My thought is, well, let's talk who's a lock. Oregon's a lock, right? Texas lock. Yeah. Penn State's a lock.
Yes. Notre Dame's a lock.
Notre Dame is a lock.
Those are probably the only 4 for sure locks. Indiana is probably also, I guess Indiana's probably a lock because they're not playing.
If they push Indiana out for anyone, that would be the worst. If like Miami gets in, but Indiana gets knocked out, that would actually make sense.
I hesitate to call Tennessee a lock because I haven't really thought about the scenarios, but Tennessee has got to be a lock, right? Like
Tennessee feels like a lock.
I don't know how they don't get in unless I don't know. Unless all the top teams lose, and we've got a bunch of I don't know. Georgia is Georgia a lock?
I think technically they're a
third loss.
Well, if we're doing 3 losses, they're better than Alabama. Are they? They lost a head-to-head to Alabama. But I don't think you should be penalized for losing in the championship game if you have a multiple bid system. The whole thing is
I think you should. I think you lose this one, you shouldn't really even be in unless you're an undefeated team that's losing their first game or, your one-loss Texas and, I don't know. I think that's why you try not to lose any games so you can afford to lose this game and still make it. But I have a hard time keeping Georgia out after losing assuming they lose to Texas, but I think it's possible. I think again that's where it comes into like where does Alabama stack up against Georgia and Miami in that situation? So
assuming Boise State wins, I think it comes down to Alabama, Miami, South Carolina, and I'd probably put them in that order on the likelihood. And SMU has to win. SMU has to win because if it becomes down to Clemson, Clemson wins, SMU jumps Miami, and Miami is done. That's a guarantee. They will not be in there because I think SMU has a privilege on that one.
Yeah, I don't know if I think SMU's probably a lock, but I understand why you would think they wouldn't be.
Well, Clemson has to get in that case, and Clemson in no capacity should be a lock for the playoffs, right? They lost
Yeah,
to South
Clemson's
Carolina,
only in if they win the ACC.
but I think SMU's record and making the championship game and getting the same record as Miami would be would be more impressive than Miami's resume.
Ohio State's a lock too, right? Even though they lost to Michigan.
Yeah, they have 2 losses. 2 losses is okay. I don't think that's a very good Ohio State team. I don't know if you had thoughts of that. That game felt like an atrocity to modern football. Like,
Yeah, it seems like Ohio State has playmakers at positions that don't make plays. You know, like
they
I don't
seem
know.
like a team that is overly injured, right? And you can kind of see it. And look, Michigan ain't good on offense, but they're fucking great on defense still. And
Yeah,
they have like the big bodies. If your offensive line is hurt, it is going to be a very long day to go against the Michigan Wolverines. So they shouldn't lose. Is there a scenario where Ryan Day makes the playoffs and gets fired?
oh God. I think it depends on seeding and who they play and who they lose to. You know, like if they are, say, they're the 6th seed and they lose to 11 seed Miami. I don't
You know,
know.
I think there's probably a coin flip chance he gets fired, right? Because he's 1-4. This last year losing to Michigan is like it wasn't great. It's never great to lose to Michigan in that game, but I can understand it as they won the national championship.
It seems
This
like
is a
such
bad
a
Michigan
short
team.
seems like
Like
such a short-sighted thing, though.
I agree. I'm saying that bunch in Columbus can be very short sighted.
Like what's the stat everyone was showing that he's like 60-1 against Big Ten opponents, but 1-4 against Ohio State.
It's the only game that matters on that schedule, bud.
Yeah,
They were joking today he could win a national championship and get fired, right? Because that's how much that game matters to Ohio
yeah,
State boosters. You can't be 1-4 in those.
yeah.
Um, I do think I think if he gets in the playoffs and doesn't get past the first round, I think he's fired. Like that's not even a joke. I'll bet a beer on it. I'll bet a beer
Okay,
if that's the case.
I'll take that bet.
Yeah, like not it's nothing serious, but
A
you can't keep
beer
it.
is
Yeah,
serious as a heart attack, bud.
sorry. I'm drinking whiskey. Yes, beer is very
Oh,
serious.
oh my
Um,
God, what is happening? Oh my goodness.
the Jameis
Sorry.
Jameis.
I can't tell. Somebody scored for Denver, and I think it was defense. So I think so. Oh, I see
Jameis
that.
did a Jameis.
Jameis again. Is that the second or third time Jameising in this game?
Well, there was a pick six early in the game.
I think that either a pick six or like a. I think it was pick six. I'm sorry. I know this. We're talking college football, but Jameis Winston. Oh yeah, that's a pick six. Did he stay up? Stay in? Yeah. Oh my God.
Classic Jameis. Damn, as a Dolphins fan, I really needed Cleveland to win this.
Oh Lord. Um. Yeah. So I don't know. I think when the rankings come out tomorrow, it'll say a lot about how the committee views Miami and how they view Georgia and how they. Bama's first out currently, right? So they're going to stay in 13th. Um,
I'm curious to see if the South Carolina
Ohio
win.
State drops.
What does the South Carolina win against Clemson do for them?
Yeah. Sad
You
thing
make,
is, I don't think it does very much. I think it might make them jump Ole Miss, but I don't think they're jumping Bama.
they're definitely jumping Ole Miss. I think there's a good chance to jump Alabama. I think the SEC needs to get their 4th team in, and that was a really good win at the end of the year.
It was, yeah.
And that's a team like they're freaking fun. That's a
I
fun.
I mean, I think
team.
that should happen, but I don't think it will. I don't think there's anything getting Alabama out of 13. They will not be lower than 13, like going forward.
Yeah, they've been
But
kicking the crap out of people though, and
yeah,
they did lose a head-to-head at Alabama 27-25 in
that,
Tuscaloosa.
South Carolina. That's
Yeah,
damn. They played them tight.
They've been playing really well, and since that, they have beaten Oklahoma by 26, Texas A&M by 24, Vanderbilt by 21, Missouri by 4, Wofford by it doesn't matter, and then Clemson by 3. And a bunch of those games are on the road.
Okay.
They are playing really good football at the end of the year since that Alabama game.
All right, so I think we've discussed that enough, but I do want to just pose one final question for you.
Sure.
It turns out that 2 Big 12 teams make the playoffs. Tell me how that happens. Like, say that happened. After this weekend, the final rankings come out, and there are 2 Big 12 teams in. How does that happen?
Okay, so the Big 12 champion, right? Let's assume Arizona State. I'm not assuming that. Iowa State is. This feels like it's right for Iowa State to get in.
Yeah, you've also got BYU on the outside.
No, Colorado is the one I'm trying to justify getting in, right?
Colorado.
It's a media product,
Yeah.
and they have a Heisman winner, who's likely Heisman winner, and Travis Hunter. I don't think BYU can get in.
You'd have to have Iowa State beat Arizona State and be the conference champ, and then Arizona State also get in on the merits of losing a close conference champion, like a la Georgia, and that would mean you'd probably need SMU to lose to Clemson, and then
if they let a 10-3 Arizona State team over Miami, that actually would be a fucking like that would be a shame. The Big 12 is living exactly where they need to live. They're going to get their one automatic bid, and that's what they deserve.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, so I don't think it's possible, huh? It's definitely a game for one single spot.
Tell me who gets in if Boise State loses.
UNLV for sure.
Do you think that UNLV would automatically get in? I know I made a case, and you and I got in conversation last week about Tulane. Tulane went on the road and shit the bed against Memphis this week. So, like I said, I thought if they got those 2 wins, those would be very impressive wins going into the final week.
So
but Tulane's still around. They're still kicking around in the rankings.
I think if UNLV beats Boise, I think there's a case to be made that Boise still gets in. So you've got UNLV and Boise. You've got, your 4 Big Ten schools and your 3 SEC schools. And I think that's really it, right? You don't really have any room for anyone besides that.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering who gets the automatic bid, and does Boise?
And then you'd have Arizona State would get a bye.
Yeah, they would.
In that scenario, unless you had UNLV jump them, but
no, there's no way you'd have. If they won, there's no way you could jump them.
Yeah.
Arizona State's been pretty good. They're like sneaky good.
Oh man, yeah, that would be a pretty stinky playoff if you had UNLV and Boise and SMU and Clemson.
I actually love that. And then less SEC, less Big Ten. Like, at the end of the day, there's only 4 teams that I thought before the season had the capacity to win the championship. And I'm moving it down to 3.
Okay.
Gosh, I'm sorry, sneezing on a podcast. Oregon, Texas, and Georgia have the capacity to win a national championship. I originally had Ohio State there. That team is just too hurt. Something's not right with them at all. Unlike in the
you don't feel Notre Dame or Penn State can do it?
No, Penn State doesn't have enough horses. Notre Dame is playing really well. You know what? I'll give you Notre Dame has the capacity. Like, even if Miami gets in, that's great, and they're going to make for fun-ass television. And it's a shame they're not playing in this ACC game because the total would be like 75, and you should take the over.
Yeah, I really just want to see Miami play SMU in a playoff game.
I do too. There's a lot of talk about Miami playing Colorado in a bowl, so that'd be super fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah, but do you care about bowls now that there's a 12-team?
Yeah, right. I mean, I guess if my team is in one, I care about it. But we're gonna have 40 different bowl games to watch before the playoffs start anyway, or do the playoffs start like next week?
They start. the week of the 20th. I think the 20th and the 21st. Friday and Saturday. I think there's one on a Friday and 2 on a Saturday.
Man,
Do you
can you imagine how sucky it would be if your team played in a bowl game like that was playing alongside the playoff games?
Oh, there's no way. Those games are going to be canceled. I can't believe they have bowls. Like, I don't understand the point if you have a 12-team playoff, right? And there's kind of some of the pageantry and the novelty going away.
Yeah, I mean, what has ever been the point of the bowl games, right?
It's fun, right?
Get a
But
PS5 and say goodbye to your buds.
Kids opt out now, and I don't hate on that shit at all. You want to go get paid more, and they don't want to get hurt in a meaningless game. Then you have like an Orange Bowl like Florida State, Georgia last year, where like 20 of the Florida State starters didn't play. They were going to lose with those starters, and they lose by 60. It's like, what's the point?
Yeah. All right. Here's the last thing. We're going to go out on this note.
Okay.
Give me one dog that wins this week.
One dog that wins this week. Okay.
I'm going to look through here, and I guess you could say like Western Kentucky, but I'm hoping that you've got something juicier than that. I am going to say that
Iowa State's got to be it, right? I feel like I've seen Matt Campbell play this game a million times and win games I don't understand.
It also feels like Clemson could do it. Or does Georgia beat Texas? I don't know. I might just bet all the dogs.
I can also see a scenario where Penn State beats Oregon. I don't think it's likely. I think that's probably the least likely. Did we get a Jameis moment?
He almost just threw another pick six. I think, unless it was a fumble, but yeah.
Yeah, I like the Iowa State one feels like it feels very likely.
Yeah.
Clemson,
it's when a team feels like they're this close to grasping it,
they lose by 30.
That's when, yeah, exactly. That's when they get Miami Syracuse.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I could play them all. Play them on the spread.
Yeah.
Round robin those bitches.
Yeah. So Jameis threw an interception in the end zone that got returned past midfield, but the guy got tackled.
He's trying to do too much.
That should do it. I think they're taking these. Yep. Okay. All right. Well, this was fun. Thanks for listening. Rate, review, subscribe, leave a comment, tell us you love us. Go to singlelegparlay.com, subscribe to our Substack, and we'll see you out there.
Good luck.
Great.
Thanks for listening to the newly rebranded Single Leg Parlay podcast. Visit our website at www.singlelegparlay.com, where you can read more of our thoughts, as well as subscribing to our newsletter to have our picks delivered straight to your inbox each week. And don't forget to follow Single Leg Parlay on all of your favorite social media platforms. Cheers!